Hey everybody, hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to a new week here on Notre Dame Daily, brought to you by Fan Arch. I'm Pete Mulroy, and entering Saturday's tilt with the Arkansas Razorbacks, the Irish were probably safe to assume two things. First, against a defense with its fair share of issues, there would be opportunities, you'd think, to move the ball both through the air and on the ground and put up some points. Next, with defensive issues of their own, widely criticized in many areas as well, Notre Dame's defense would need their best effort of the season to get the W. Luckily, for Marcus Freeman and company, their best collective effort in all three phases of the game came in Fayetteville this past Saturday, as this one was quite honestly never close. The Irish defense was fast, they were physical, and they were unrelenting, but to every definition of that term. While the Hogs looked like they did have some mojo on their opening drive offensively, Notre Dame holding them to 3 points proved to be huge. From there, Arkansas, who actually parted ways with head coach Sam Pittman shortly after their third loss of the season, would only score 10 more points the rest of the way. The Irish, now ranked 21st in the AP Top 25 poll, received a big effort from Don Schuler, 9 tackles, 9 combined from Tay Johnson and Jalen Stroman, with Johnson overtaking Stroman as that starting safety opposite Schuler. And solid play up front and in the second level from the likes of Gabe Rubio, who's really solidified himself as Notre Dame's best player on the D-line. Jordan Botelho had a nice game. Drake Bowen, Boubacar Traore looked very active and more comfortable. I know there's been some teetering there the last couple of weeks. And the defense, quite honestly, was simply too much for the home Hogs. Solid efforts on the back end by Christian Gray, Mark Zachary, Luke Talich, who had an interception, aided in the type of defensive effort we all expected to see, didn't we? Frequently from a Notre Dame group that was one of the best in America last season, and which returned a bulk and a significant amount of that talent from a personnel perspective. Offensively, you had big games from Jordan Faison, Malachi Fields, back-to-back for each of them, respectively. Incredible play from C.J. Carr and unstoppable running by Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. More on that in a little bit. Created just a perfect storm of dominance for a Notre Dame group collectively that now seems to have its mojo back following consecutive large victories. The Irish, beyond prepared, they were to take away these major playmakers Arkansas had, the likes of Omega Blake, Mike Washington Jr., Raylan Sharp. And while those guys got their fair share of touches and looked good in spots, the damage was minimal. And we had talked about coming into the week that, yes, there was a good amount of talent offensively, because this was an Arkansas offense that ranked top 10, top 15 consistently in a lot of categories a month into the season. But the idea that I focused in on last week was disrupting Green and not giving Arkansas a quarterback an eternity in the pocket. You can't do that against a kid like Taylon Green, because if you give a kid with his two-way skill set all day, he'll kill you. The Irish knew that, especially since that's exactly what happened against Texas A&M and quarterback Marcel Reed, who's got a very similar skill set, both incredibly talented. And that came in Notre Dame's 1-point loss at home a couple of weeks ago to the Aggies. Lesson learned. The Arkansas quarterback, who spearheaded, again, this strong start to the season by the Hogs offense that ranked 8th overall and then 15th in the nation in passing entering the game, he was never able to get into a rhythm. And that, again, is the relentless efforts across all three levels of the defense by Notre Dame's complete unit. While the Irish front line, I guess it's fair to say, did have some early hiccups in stopping the run, it didn't last long. It never really materialized into anything of a threat for Arkansas. This was a Hogs offense led by Green that was capable of putting up explosive plays at a moment's notice. Saturday, it just never happened. And you knew that was a Notre Dame defense that had been susceptible to giving up the big play. We saw it against Miami. We saw it against Texas A&M. We saw some trickery they fell for against Purdue, nearly giving up 300 passing yards in the first half last weekend. But then they brought it back down to earth and started playing their game more in the second half, and it carried over into Fayetteville. At game's end, Green's stat line, kid was sacked 3 times, threw a pick, and was on the move early and often behind the line of scrimmage. 17 of 32 passing when it was all said and done. 207 yards, no scores, that pick, and a measly average of 6.5 yards per completion. Now, while he did run for 81 yards on 10 carries, he never found the end zone, so the damage there beyond minimal. His top target, Omega Blake, they found him on that opening drive on a big gainer across the middle, was held to 6 receptions for 73 yards as the Irish secondary, even without Leonard Moore. Never let Blake find his way into open space, and that was huge. They learned the lesson from what happened with Mario Craver against Texas A&M, the opening week against Tony. You didn't let Blake run wild, and that basically took away that unbelievable security blanket there for Taylen Green. Again, it was the best effort of the season from Chris Ash's group. The question now becomes, can the Irish springboard this into the norm moving forward? From a talent perspective, they certainly have it. I don't think there's much debating there. I think that's, not even being a Notre Dame fan, I think that's pretty obvious from what we've seen. And if the last 6 quarters are the indication, this incredibly talented, cohesive group might be starting to remember just how lethal they can be. Oh, and let's not forget, I just said his name. Leonard Moore will be back. You talk about the other side of the football for Notre Dame, and to no surprise, this Irish offense put up incredible numbers for the second straight game. For as dangerous as the Arkansas offense has the potential to be, its defense left much to be desired. Notre Dame exploited it all. With the Irish having not punted now the past 2 games against the Boilers and now the Hogs, the offense has racked up over 100 points while doing its fair share of damage on special teams as well. We have to make sure we note that because they've been pretty damn consistent in the return games, safe with the football, and the kicking games as well. I mean, Rendell's got to be bored out of his mind, but they're putting up points. I'm sure he's more than pleased to have a couple of weeks off. Saturday, quarterback C.J. Carr. Kid continues to get better and better each week. Lit up the Arkansas secondary to the tune of 22 of 30 passing, 354 in the air, 4 scores, no picks on the season. Carr now has an impressive line. Completion percentage north of 68, nearly 1,100 yards passing, 9 scores, a rushing touchdown, and just 2 interceptions. So he's doing a good job with the football, after some early season hiccups, which again, you would have thought that you'd get more support in cleaning up those early mistakes from your defense, that they can kind of mask them. It didn't happen in spots against Miami. Certainly didn't happen against Texas A&M. But here we are now, C.J. Carr getting more confident, more comfortable. And it's probably no surprise that a large part of that has to do with the fact that he's built rapport with his receivers, that unbelievable running game, protection up front. And yes, that Notre Dame defense is now starting to do the job we all expected to do. But on the ground is where the Irish offense makes its money. This is where they cash in. They're separating from the competition, just like we knew they would. Jadarian Price ran fast and physical, 86 yards in a score Saturday, and he reeled in a 35-yard touchdown score that just seemed to make the Arkansas defense look silly. Jeremiah Love, on the other hand, became the first Irish player to rush for 2 scores and catch 2 in a single game. I mean, what more can we say about Jay Love? Just continues to dominate each week. It was also really great to see Jabron Payne get into the action. Aeneas Williams picked up a 17-yard score. We saw a little bit more from Nolan James. All in all, led by the confident play of Carr and just the supremacy of the Love-Price connection out of the backfield, not to mention really good play up front. The Irish offense continues to roll. They've scored at least 40-plus in 3 of 4 contests this season, an effort that really looks, if you go back and break it down, well, where did this offensive onslaught come from the last couple of weeks? I think it's fair to say that it probably started in that 4th quarter against Miami. Granted, they came up short, but they hung 17 in the comeback effort, tying the game with 3+ left, ultimately losing by 3. Now that the defense seems to be finding its groove and footing, this team knows what they have across the roster in all 3 phases from a talent perspective, and it really has been fun to watch. It's going to be great to see. I mean, you would assume, especially starting with this weekend against Boise State, Notre Dame is going to be favored in most, if not all, of the contests they have left on their schedule. I don't think there's much to that. And now you just got to continue to stack and take care of business. You're 2 for your last 2 since opening 0 for 2, and you want to keep it rolling. Up next on the docket will be Boise State as the Broncos come to South Bend for a 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time start this Saturday, October 4th. The first meeting in the history of the 2 football programs between the Broncs and the Fighting Irish. And since dropping a season-opening lopsided contest to South Florida by a score of 34-7, the Broncos have won 3 straight, all by double digits, wins over Eastern Washington, Air Force, Appalachian State. Yeah, they're nice, I get it, but they don't exactly move the needle, right, from a challenging perspective. But quarterback Maddox Matson's in his 3rd year as a starter in Boise, and he's a good one. That's legit. Threw for over 3,000 yards in 14 contests last season, 23 scores against 6 interceptions, helped the Broncos get to the CFP, ran for another 220 and 5 touchdowns that season as well. The junior's thrown for over 1,100 yards this year, 9 scores and a pick. Numbers very similar to C.J. Carr, except he's a bit better of a runner, at least to this point. 52 yards and a score to his credit this year. Dylan Riley's his top back. You got good support on the outside. Latrell Caples, Chris Marshall. I'll talk about these guys and break down the positional groups for the Broncos throughout the week. And now heading into a new week, the Irish open as a 16.5-point favorite here in this contest. So again, going through leading up to Saturday, I'll go the heavy hitting points for the Boise State Broncos, who enter this one 3-1, Notre Dame 2-2. The Irish moving up in the poll. It's going to be fun to see. It'll be a really nice battle. These first time meetings for two really respected programs. Boise State, one of the top mid-major programs, and they've had a great run the last couple 20 plus years. Going up and coming into South Bend. It's pretty cool. And I'm looking forward to this one. NBC and Peacock anchoring the coverage. Again, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time start this Saturday, October 4th. Notre Dame, Boise State. Plenty of time, a couple days to break it down before we get there. For now, have a great rest of yours. And as always, go Irish.